Code Keepers, I'm back. We're back. It's time for us, and we're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to do something a little different. I've done it before. I brought on some great people on the platform, so I'm really kind of doing it again, but this time we have a coach. So get on Code Keepers. Diamond Drip in the house. Okay, let's go from there to FAM, because you just mentioned FAM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so tell me about FAM, Diamond Drip. Tell me about Fertility Awareness Method. Never heard of
it. So most people have heard of the rhythm method, which is what FAM is oftentimes confused for. And so essentially what they would promote back in the day with the rhythm method is that all women operate on this 28-day cycle, and on the 14th day is when you ovulate. And so as long as you don't do anything on the 14th day or the day before, the day after, then you won't get pregnant. And so that was disproved with the modalities that I use now in my business. They're all about the science of differentiation. And so women's bodies are no different to, no subject. They're not different from that narrative of we're all different, we're all unique. And so that was the main thing that's wrong with the rhythm method, is because it's assuming that all women go through this exact thing. And so the fertility awareness method is actually the science is rooted in that. So every single woman who is of ovulating age, we have these 4 distinct phases of our cycle. So we have the menstruation phase that everyone knows and everyone talks about because it's obvious, right? You can't deny that you are menstruating. It's there. Then you have the follicular phase, which is actually the first 14 days. So your menstrual phase gets mixed into there as well. But the follicular phase is oftentimes referred to as this internal spring. And so it's where you feel better. That's why we feel better after we've menstruated and we're done, shedding all the old. We feel like there's new life. We feel like, I can do things. I have energy for stuff again. And then you enter into the ovulation phase. And so this is where testosterone starts to rise. Your LH surges a little bit. And so this is what actually causes the egg to release, and therefore ovulation. And then
that's so interesting. I think I missed this in biology class in 8th grade. I must have not, when you said women's bodies, you had me there, and I was like, oh, let me tap in. I don't think I was tapped in 8th grade. So this is a great learning experience. One of the things that made me just kind of ponder what you stated was the term in Hebrew that we would equate to virgin, indicates that a woman has had the menstrual cycle and is cleansed. So I know in many ways, particularly in those of us who were raised in a canonized Christian household, we think virgin in the terms of never having sex, or penetrative sex, whatever term you want to use. But in the original Hebrew, it actually meant that a woman was cleansed. So that's what you just said reverts back to a lot of different things. Keep teaching. I'm in the way.
I appreciate
let me get out the way.
No, you're fine. I appreciate that because I didn't know that. So you have ovulation, and then the last phase, which is the luteal phase, often referred to as the PMS phase. This is where everything just kind of takes this tank. So what we were taught in school was that the woman's egg is released, it travels down the fallopian tube. And then there's like this lining that is making, itself thicker in order for the egg to be able to embed. And all of that is true. And then, of course, when there is no egg embedded in the lining, then we release it, and that's menstruation. But there are so many other things that are going on. And so the fertility awareness method, it actually tracks, it helps you to know what's going on in your body as a woman and keep track of, so you can make like really accurate predictions on when certain things are about to come. So every day with the fertility awareness method, I take my temperature. So before I get out of bed, before I go to the bathroom, before I do anything like that, I actually have a thermometer and I take my temperature so that I can take my basal, my BBT. And so that tells me, during the follicular phase and during ovulation. Yes.
All right. BBT for those of us who were testosterone toxics.
Yes. Yes.
What is, I know what a BBL is. What's a BBT?
It's just basal body temperature. So this is like your resting temperature. So like when you first wake up, this is what your body, obviously as you move around, you do a bunch of stuff, it raises, but like whatever that resting temperature is, that's what the fertility awareness method operates off of. And so from menstruation until like that follicular phase until like a little bit after ovulation, we actually stay around like 97, so the BBT thermometers, they're like 98.13. They have that second decimal there. And so usually we hover in that lower phase. After we ovulate, everything spikes. So the LH spikes, the FSG, the testosterone, the progesterone, the estrogen, everything peaks for this culmination. And that's when the egg is released. The LH actually tells you when the egg is about to release, which is why during that ovulation time, I actually take ovulation predictor tests to let me know when that LH surge is at its highest, because obviously that's a no-fly zone. If we don't want another, I'm a mom. If we don't want another Taylor, it's a no-fly zone. And so also during this time, you're looking at your temperature, you're looking at the LH through the ovulation predictor kits, and you're also checking some people do it, some people don't, because sometimes it's a little, depending on the way your cervix is built, it can be hard, but it's funny because my partner, he always says that like we as humans talk about like other life forms as aliens, and he's like, we're the aliens. And I always think about that every time I talk about our cervix. So when you're about to ovulate, when your body is ready to make babies, as we like to say, your cervix actually gets lower, and the hole that's in your cervix actually opens wider, and you can actually, like, just by feeling in there, feel what's going on.
So your cervix like drops down and gets its eagle on, right? Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah,
okay.
It's super crazy. So the fertility awareness, it looks at the temperature, it looks at the cervical positioning, and it also looks at the cervical mucus, because also what happens during ovulation is it gets like this egg white consistency. And that's so that when the sperm is released, it has like its smoothest way to the cervix to make the babies. And it's also, more alkaline so that it doesn't get killed off or, swept aside. There are so many things I learned about this method, but I'm not going to nerd out too much. But those.
Wow, I'm just blown away. I mean, God is good. Good operating design is good. It's just amazing the complexity of women. I tell some of my students that I work with, if you go in some houses, you'll go into a room and it has one light switch. And then you go into other rooms and it might have a light switch area that has 7 switches. And I say, men, we're like the 2 switches. We're like the room with 2 switches. Women are like the room with 10 switches. It's just a lot more complex. And wow, I'm really kind of blown away.
So, but the more that you know, the more you can inform your partner, which is why I'm glad that you were wanting to talk about this, because every single one of those phases, there's certain productivity things that are recommended. Some phases, you have less energy. So it's recommended that you do more repetitive tasks. But what I think it's important for male listeners to know is that there are different moods for each one of these phases. So in the follicular phase, like, we're more extroverted. We are more playful. We are more, in the ovulation phase, because of that rise in testosterone, because our body wants to make babies, we are a little bit more sensual. We're more, we're more extroverted then too. And and things like that. But during the luteal phase, we're more critical, not just of ourselves, but of those around us. We're more mature. We're more sensitive. And so for my partner and for me, because there are different foods that go with each phase to help you keep your energy at its peak. So I do it for him, but I also do it for me. We have little whiteboards on our fridge. And so whenever I enter into a different phase, I'll write like whatever the recommended foods are. I'll write, because we work out together. So I'll write like, are we doing yoga? Are we doing heavy weights? Are we doing light weights? I'll write, what else do I write on there? Like any tips that come with that phase. Like some phases, like the one I'm in right now, you should really stay hydrated. And then I'll write the moods. And so it was funny. He sometimes will pick up on whatever the mood is before, like without me even really thinking of it. Like I'll be in whatever the mood is. And I'm like, why did I do that? Like I could have done that so many other ways. He's like, this must be your critical phase, right? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, actually, I can be a little nicer to myself, actually.
Interesting. Well, one of the things about the Get On Code show is we're firmly focused on empowerment. So with this information, how can it empower our community first and then, the world? How is this empowering to our community?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is so empowering as a woman first to know what your body is doing, because there's not a lot of information out there about women's health. There's not a lot about our different phases and what each phase needs. Like this past one. So I know that based on, because I've been doing this since like March, I know that based on the way that my body ebbs and flows, I ovulate around day 13, 14, or 15. And so I start taking my tests around day 10 so that I can watch and see it get darker. And so for me to have been taking the test this past time around on day 12, 13, I saw the line getting a little bit darker. And for me to say, I think I'm going to ovulate tomorrow, and then to take the test and see those 2 lines saying that like I'm right, like things about your body that like no one really talks about. You know what to look for, what to give your body. So there are certain phases where it's actually recommended that you eat like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. There are some phases where like the one I'm in right now, the luteal phase, it's recommended that we prioritize healthy fats and protein. And that in it of itself is so helpful, because we live in a society that has a lot of diets to it. And so some of those diets, they're like, eat salads and fruit and whatever. And those things are good for you. However, when you're in the luteal phase, my partner makes fun of me. He's like, meat. He's like, give me the meats. He's like, you're like, I want all the meats. And it's so true, because my body just needs more protein right now.
Wow.
So it's empowering.
Wow. So that's like the where's the beef phase.
Yeah, like the head to Arby's, we got the meats.
Hey, Code Keepers, we're learning and earning with Queen Coach Diamond Drip. Queens, if you would like to know more about how to feed your body what it needs so you can work at your optimal level, get Drippy. Research Diamond Drip on all platforms except for Twitter, X to X, and learn. If there's certain foods, if there's certain drinks, if there's certain practices that will amplify your effectiveness, I think it's incumbent upon you to look into them. And Diamond Drip got the goods. So Code Keepers, get on code with Diamond Drip. Learn about the Fertility Awareness Method and be empowered. So we're going high level today. All right. Welcome to Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show, which is a series of melanated conversations focused on empowerment, health, wealth, and knowledge of self.
People think in binary choices because they are conditioned to.
And on the wall was a picture of a wolf and a lion. I think the wolf was the Democratic Party, the lion was the Republicans.
But the drug trade and all these illegal stuff that people do, that's still economics. It's just that they couldn't do it in a traditional system.
We're talking about melanated wealth.
So we can build wealth, but we just, for some reason, don't seem to be able to transfer it.
You had a great experience. Fine. That means nothing.
What were you told as a child about education? You had to be how many times better?
Every impression without an expression becomes depression.